Hey, what's up you guys? Today I'm doing my TBR for the month of October, if you don't know. And my last video, or my second last video, I announced that me and my friends are hosting a readathon for the whole month of October. It's called Trick or Treat-a-thon. You know, like trick or treat, but reading. And I am super excited. I'm going to try and vlog for the entire month, but starting tomorrow. So for like 5 weeks of like weekly vlogs, I'm going to try and do it. I've never done that much before. I've done like 1 week of vlogs, like vlogging, but never like a full month. So we're going to see if it works. Fingers crossed. I'm super excited. I'm going to talk about the books that I'm reading today, as well as just a few other books I plan on reading in October. It's a very big TBR. I'm going very ambitious, which is probably not a good idea because I just started university again. You know, I'm supposed to be working my dissertation and stuff, but this is more important. No, it's not. But yeah, I'm super excited about all the books I'm reading and I can't wait to talk about them. So if you enjoy this video, please leave a like, please subscribe, and let's just get started talking about my Trick or Treat-a-thon TBR. So the very first prompt is Witch, and just a reminder, for every prompt you can either do the prompt itself or you can read a book featuring the monster that the prompt is named after. So for Witch, the prompt was read a book with a female lead who will probably hex you if you mess with her. And for this I'm reading City of Fallen Angels by Cassandra Clare. This is the fourth book in the Shadowhunters Mortal Instruments series, and I have completely fallen in love with this series. Okay, I'm doing a video probably Wednesday after this video is uploaded, talking about the Shadowhunters books, because oh my god, I never even planned on reading these. I always heard people talk about them and I was like, whatever. And then I was like, I saw them really cheap online, so I picked up the set of like the first 6 books, and I was like, okay, I'll just read the first one like this month, because I was kind of like, I don't know, just in a different easy read. And I loved it so much, and I read books 2 and 3, so now I'm reading books 4. And Clary, if you don't know, is the main character of these books, and she will definitely hex you if you mess with her. She is not someone you want to mess with. She is very aggressive, but in a good way, like for her friends. Like she stands up for what she believes in, blah blah blah. And I just love it so much. Like I can't believe I haven't read these books before. Like I can't believe I left this late. Like Clary and Jace are just like, oh my god. I don't even want to talk about it now. Watch out for my video on Wednesday, because I love this series so much. It's ridiculous. Like, I can't believe how much I am a Shadowhunters stan. For the vampire prompt, I'm keeping things simple and just going with the read a book featuring a vampire. And I am reading basically the classic, the definition of a vampire book, and that is Dracula by Bram Stoker. In pop culture, it all comes back to Dracula pretty much. Like, this book basically cemented the idea of what a vampire is into people's minds. And I'm super excited to finally get to it. I've owned this since like last April, I think it was. Like last April I done a whole month of reading like classic horror books, and I don't know why they're in April instead of October, but I did for some reason. Looking back, I'm like, that was such a weird decision, but anyway, I enjoyed it. But I'm finally reading it in October this year. It is written like in the form of letters and documents instead of just a normal like first person or third person narrator type thing. So I'm pretty excited to get into it. I've heard a lot of good things. A lot of people that don't even read classics that much love this book. So I'm looking forward to eventually finally reading Dracula. For Werewolf, the prompt was read a book only at night. And for this, I'm reading The Kraken Wakes by John Wyndham. I'm pretty sure this was recommended to me by Monica from Mini Reads. It is not a classic, but it's an older sci-fi book about, I'm pretty sure the Kraken. The back of the book's kind of confusing me. Okay, so it's called The Kraken Wakes, and it does mention the Kraken in the synopsis. However, it also mentions like meteorites falling from the sky, and I don't know. It feels like kind of more alien vibes, but maybe that's the thing. Maybe the Kraken is an alien, or I don't know. I'm excited to get to it. It's not that long. The text is pretty small in it, but it's like 180 pages. So this would just be a nice one to read every night, and well, not every night, until I finish it, and I'm looking forward to it. Again, I don't know too much about it, but if Monica loves it, then I'm pretty sure I'll love it. And if Monica didn't recommend it, then I don't know who did. For Ghost, I am reading a short story collection of Best Ghost Stories by Charles Dickens that I got for Christmas last year with my parents. And I think it is like 5 different short stories all about ghosts, because Charles Dickens was like obsessed with ghosts. Apparently that was like kind of his thing. That a lot of people don't really know. I mean, obviously everyone knows of Christmas Carol, which is like his most famous ghost story, and that one's not in this collection, I'm pretty sure. But this is just a bunch of short stories all about ghosts in Victorian London, I'm assuming, and I think it sounds pretty fun. I don't really know much about it. I'm not like super into Charles Dickens. I've read Great Expectations and I did really enjoy it, but that's the only thing I've actually read. So I'm excited to finally read something else by him, even if it is short stories, because short stories don't generally like kind of vibe with me. I'm not really a short story person, but I think these will be pretty fun, pretty spooky, you know, like ghost stories. And I'm pretty sure, well, no, I know that Charles Dickens is obviously a Victorian author, so I'm counting this as my unofficial taking part in Booktober. Dracula also was written during the Victorian era, but it's like right at the very end of the Victorian era, so I don't know if people really count that as a Victorian novel. I don't know, but I'm counting these two as my like unofficial Booktober taking part. What would you call that? I don't know. Participation. That is the word. Oh my god, why am I so stupid? For the demon prompt, I am just reading a book featuring a demon, and for this I'm reading City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare, which is book number 5 in the Mortal Instruments series. And I'm not going to talk about it again because it's basically the same reasons as the start. I love this series, and I know for a fact that I'm not going to just want to read book 4. I'm definitely going to want to read book 5 and maybe book 6, but I think I'm going to leave these two until like the end of the month and read these kind of last, so that I can then just go straight onto book 6 and not have to worry about the rest of my October TBR, because I'm pretty sure that is going to be what happens. The Siren prompt is to read a book that someone else has recommended to you, and for this I'm reading A Different Drummer by William Melvin Kelly, and this was recommended to me, not personally, but by Anne from Anne's Bookish Corner. She talked about it in a video before about how much she loved it, and it is a book written by an African American author. It came out in like 1962, I'm pretty sure. And it is about a town where all of the black people in town leave, and how the white people, who I'm assuming are like kind of racist and stuff, how they actually respond to all the black people leaving, because I'm pretty sure we'll talk about how the town actually really relies on the black people and their work and their money and stuff like that. So I think this sounds really interesting. Anne loved it. I've never heard anyone else talk about it, but she gave it like a glowing review and said it's one of her favourite books. So I picked it up in one of my last book hauls, and I'm excited to get to it. The prompt for Faye is to read a book you've always been too scared to pick up, and for this I'm reading Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. I was always drawn to this book, not because the plot sounds overly interesting, but just because I think Virginia Woolf is a very interesting author, and I wanted to read like her most famous work, which I'm pretty sure everyone would agree is Mrs. Dalloway. However, I read To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf back in like February this year. Really didn't like it, did not like the writing style. It is stream of consciousness, so it is very sporadic and there's not much grammar, and it's just like not something I would probably want to read just for fun. But obviously Virginia Woolf is like very famous, very influential, so I want to give her another chance, and this is like her most famous book obviously, so I'm pretty sure I'll enjoy it a little bit more than To the Lighthouse. But I don't know, I'm actually scared to try it because I'm like, if I don't like this, then I feel like I'm like being sacrilegious to Virginia Woolf, because she is like obviously very, very iconic but I don't know, her writing style is different to say the least. And finally, for my prompt, which was Zombie, the prompt was to read a book that features a disaster, and I am going to read The Kill Order by James Dashner. This is the prequel to the Maze Runner series, and the Maze Runner series all kind of begins because there's a virus that takes over the world, kind of like right now, except this is not as serious as that. That actually like destroys the world. And it also is caused by like sun flares, I'm pretty sure. Or, I don't know, I think there was a twist where actually it was man-made. Anyway, this is a prequel, so I guess I'll find out in the prequel. I was never planning on reading the prequel, but then I found it in a charity shop for like 20 pence, so obviously I picked it up. And I think that after a lot of these like heavy books this month, or like bigger books anyway, I'll need a nice YA. Although Shadowhunters is also YA, so I don't know. I just like having YA books to kind of break up the month, because if you have too many classics or like too many like bigger books, like I feel like it kind of makes me read slower and drags me down a little bit and makes me less enthusiastic to read. Even though I enjoy the books, I find that they just kind of make my reading go a bit slower. So I like to throw in a YA book just to keep things fun, and hopefully this one does the job. And lastly, I have 2 other books in my October TBR which aren't part of the readathon, and that is The Dragon Reborn by Robert Jordan, which is book 3 in the Wheel of Time series. I've been trying to read one of these every month, and then this month the time just flew away from me. So I'm actually going to start this tomorrow and then hopefully finish it by like the 2nd or 3rd of October, because I can read about 100 pages a day normally of the Wheel of Time books. So I'm looking forward to that. I really love the ending of book 2, and I'm excited to see where the series goes. And then I also want to read Sunset Song by Lewis Grassic Gibbon. I've probably butchered that name. It is a Scottish classic about a young girl in like the time of World War I in rural Scotland, probably up north. And I don't know much more about it other than that, but I think it sounds pretty cool. In the Goodreads it says it's like one of like the most popular Scottish classics ever, which took me by surprise. I'd never heard of it before, but I bought it in my last book haul and I thought it sounded pretty good. So hopefully I get to both of those. I'm definitely going to get to the Dragon Reborn Sunset Song. I'm not sure I would want to because I want to read a Scottish book every month, but we'll just see how time goes. This is a big TBR. I don't normally read like 10 books a month, so we'll see. I think, honestly, maybe Mrs. Dalloway will just have to get cut because I think I'd rather read this than Mrs. Dalloway, but we'll see how things go. And those are all of the books I'm reading in October, hopefully, if things go to plan. Please let me know your thoughts on any of these books down below if you have read them before. Look out for my Shadowhunters video, which will be coming out on Wednesday. I'm so excited to film that. I'm going to film it tomorrow. I have so much to talk about, especially for book 3. Like, books 1 and 2, I don't have that much, but book 3, oh my god. I could talk for an hour straight probably about that book. That's not even related to this video, but I'm excited about it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, please subscribe, and I will see you in my next video, which will be about Shadowhunters.